Hello, twisted humans.
Do you find yourself wanting to know more about the latest murder, conspiracy, cult, or haunting?
Then this is the podcast for you. I'm Alicia.
And I'm Sierra, and this is Twisted and Uncorked.
I don't know why my voice chooses to go prepubescent every time we record, but here we are. Welcome to another episode of Twisted and Uncorked. This is episode 74, part 1, because it is that time again, Twisted Humans. We are on to our serial killer. But
Woohoo!
Before we get into that, Sierra, do you have a fun fact for me?
I do. My fun fact is that there are areas on Earth with less gravity than others. And the reason I'm bringing this to your attention is, first of all, the Earth does not have evenly distributed density, which means some areas have more or less gravity than others.
That's crazy.
Right. Specifically in Canada, there's literally an article that says, how can parts of Canada be missing gravity? Because I guess gravity in the Hudson Bay area, like in Quebec and stuff, the gravity is way lower. But the main reason I'm bringing this up today is because as we're recording this, the Large Hadron Collider that just happened like a week ago. And recently on TikTok, people are posting things like, what the heck is this new timeline? I never knew this before. Did you know that the Earth is not a sphere? Like, it's not a perfect round ball.
As we always pictured it.
Right. I mean,
Crazy.
as literal spaceships have shown it.
That's insane.
Like, we go to space all the time, allegedly. And when we look at the Earth, it's perfectly round. How come it's not perfectly round now? I'm confused. If you Google, is the Earth perfectly round, it will show you what it actually looks like. And it's fucking
scary?
weird. It's not a ball. It bulges at the equator. Yeah, do it. And it gets flatter near the poles due to its rotation. So it looks like a clay blob.
It's an ellipsoid. It's closer to an ellipsoid than it is a circle.
I don't even know what an ellipsoid is.
I don't either. Oh my god, I don't like it.
You see the clay ball?
I hate it.
Yeah. It's like a clay ball that a kindergartner made and didn't know how to make a sphere yet.
Oh my
it's
god.
Scary. I don't like it.
I mean, the Earth is a giant rock, so it's illogical to think that it would be totally round, you know? Like, so I get it, but I also don't love it. Twisted Humans, definitely go and Google the same thing and go to images.
Yeah, you know what? I'm going to show you what it looks like right now.
It's a little freaky.
The picture that scares the shit out of me.
Is it the fake versus real one?
That.
Ah! What?
Yeah.
I hate it.
Why? Does it look like that?
Can we go to space and smooth out the Earth and make life okay again? Thanks.
I don't understand how when we go to space, like now I feel like all the times we've been to space were fake. Now I feel like a conspiracy theorist. Why does it look
you know
perfectly
what?
circular
You're not
from
telling
up
me
there?
that the Earth is flat, so that makes you far from a conspiracy theorist because you are actually speaking facts.
I'm just so confused.
But if you think about the science behind what you just said, that makes sense because it would like
right.
more. Ugh, I don't like it.
Yeah, I don't like it either.
I'm a little freaked out by
All
that.
of the other planets look perfectly circular. Are they not perfectly circular also?
I'm gonna go with no.
I'm going to not look it up because I'm scared.
Except maybe Jupiter, because Jupiter's just gas. Big ball of gas.
Jupiter
no, that's Saturn.
fixes
I
itself.
always forget this. Is it Saturn or is it Jupiter that's totally gas?
It's probably Uranus. That was funny.
That was funny.
We don't know anything about planets.
Somewhere, apparently, I don't even know what order they go in. A new listener was just listening to it and immediately turned it off after that joke. I'm sorry to see you go, guys, but that's what you have to deal with if you're going to be a listener.
I'm not Googling anything in space until we turn the HLC back on and LHC, whatever. Put me back on the normal timeline. I'm scared of space right now.
I don't blame you. I'm scared of everything right now. But my fun fact is hopefully not going to scare you. It's just funny, I guess. So, using forks used to be considered sacrilegious. The widely used eating utensils were once seen as blasphemous and an offense to God. Why? Because they were artificial hands. Following my fact about tablecloths, I felt like a fact about cutlery seemed appropriate, so.
You know what? I think that there's nothing wrong with artificial hands. I think that some Christians go way too fucking far. But I also think that it's perfectly acceptable to eat with your fingers.
It is.
You have them.
Right? I mean, there are certain things that you, like, don't want to eat with your fingers, like
Why not?
soup.
That you just drink it.
Yeah, that's true. But I mean, like, certain things are just, like, like, runny. And, like, you need a spoon or something to help you. Or, like, a knife on the back edge of your fork to get it onto your fork. Sometimes it's just necessary.
Yeah, sometimes.
I like
sometimes
eating
it's
with my hands,
unnecessary, though. I hate people.
Slows me down.
I don't hate any people. But I really dislike when people eat pizza with a fork and a knife.
Those people are
Don't
serial
fucking
killers.
do that.
For sure.
My stepmom does that.
Oh, okay. Well, Sierra's stepmom will make an exception for you, but stop doing that shit. I don't know if your stepmom listens. But,
Probably not.
or people that eat, like, burgers with a fork and a knife. Those people.
I do like to cut mine in half.
I do too. That's different.
Yeah,
it makes it more attainable for our little childlike hands. It's
right. It gives me an edge that I can shove it into my face.
Exactly. Especially when it's a homemade burger, and those are usually taller than pressed patties. See, it's all logical here. But if you're eating food like wings, if you're eating wings with a fork and a knife, just stop listening right now, okay? We don't want you.
Use the fingers that God gave you.
Yeah, right? Stop being offensive and sacrilegious.
Anyway.
Yeah. Anyway, when we're done offending people, do we want to have some wine before we get into the serial killer?
We do want to have some wine to go with that.
Did you chill yours?
I did, yeah.
I did mine too.
I shoved it in the freezer as soon as I got home, and then like an hour later I was like, okay, now I can transfer to the fridge.
I feel like a California red blend could be a solid wine to chill. Also, again, it's really hot here for me, so yeah, but some reds are, like, in my opinion, better room temperature, but I'm taking a chance with this one. So today we are drinking Cloud Watcher, not Drifter, like I requested at the liquor store before they looked at me like I was a crazy person. And these wines are captivating, but beyond your imagination. Take the time to watch the wondrous clouds roll up and sip our delicious wine. This decadent red blend hails from some of the finest vineyards across California, where on warm days and cool nights slowly ripen the grapes to create a lush, well-balanced wine. There are deep flavors of blackberry jam, dark cherries, raspberry cobbler with notes of chocolate and a heavy silky finish. Enjoy this with a filet mignon or a chocolate lava cake.
That's why I bought
at
chocolate lava cake.
Because those are two delicious things. And it clocks in at 13.5%. I really like it. I've already had 2 sips. She's smooth.
Extremely dark.
It is dark. It's all those heavy berry notes.
This wine, if you put this in a blood bag, it would be perfect for Halloween. It is so dark, but I don't know if you can tell in the video, you guys, but the fucking bubbles are still red. Like, I've been rewatching Vampire Diaries. This is blood.
Oh, shit.
Okay, this is awesome.
Do you think that that's what they used exactly? Cloud Watcher wine? That's what they put in the blood bags?
Probably not, because it's definitely thicker.
Definitely a deep red. Definitely really tasty. I don't think it's dry. It's pretty smooth. I think I made a good decision chilling it.
Yeah. It is a little dry for me afterwards. Like on the back, it's dry. Mm-hmm. But it is really good. It's fruity, but in a dark way, not in a sweet way. Yeah. I like it.
Yeah. I think it would be, I love deep reds, especially in the wintertime, like around Christmas with all your desserts. So I think that would be the best time. I'm excited to see what kind of sangria you make into this.
Oh, I know. I'm going to give it an 8.
Oh, I was thinking an 8.5. I really like it. So, before we get into this week's serial killer, we are going to hear a promo from Haunts and Homicides. So, I am sure we've talked about this before, but as a reminder, the term serial killer was created in the 1960s. It became popular in America in the 1970s when investigators started catching a bunch of serial killers.
Yeah, all of them.
Yeah, basically the
70s
70s was like a bingo card of serial killers, if you were just, I don't know.
Bingo card.
Yeah, I think the last time that we mentioned this was on our first episode ever when we covered Ted Bundy, also
Yeah,
a serial
I think it
killer in the
was.
70s. So,
Yeah.
killers who had killed multiple people before this time were later examined and then dubbed serial killers. That is, except for women. If you asked even some of our most morbid crime lovers who America's first female serial killer was, they would probably tell you it was Eileen Wuornos.
That's the thing when you Google it.
Yes.
When you Google Eileen Wuornos, they're like,
that's what
first
comes up on our
female
wiki
serial killer.
page. Yeah, I know. That's
Right.
true. But that was just the first American female serial killer after the term was coined. There are multiple female serial killers in America that lived long before Eileen. And one of these women we are talking about today, Jane Toppan.
ooh.
Which I, like many of our listeners, knew nothing about Jane before we decided to do this episode, so buckle up, guys. I would like to give a shout out to my beautiful co-host here because she read 2 books on this case, so. Commitment, guys.
Fascinating.
Yeah, she's a crazy lady. But this week we are talking about a little bit of her upbringing and maybe what could have caused her to do some of the things she did in the future. So, unfortunately, since Jane Toppan was a serial killer before the word even existed, and because she was a woman in the 1800s, there was not a lot of information about her personal life. Recently, there was a true crime lover like ourselves who took it upon herself to really dig deep into the life of this mysterious woman. After learning everything she could about Jane and getting into her mind, Mary Kay McBrayer,
I think McBrayer.
okay, wrote a mostly non-fiction book about the life of Jane Toppan, and she filled in the blank spots with very educated guesses, and we see that kind of flowy style of writing, like kind of like
Right.
with that I just started reading on Frank Lloyd Wright. Like a little bit
Yeah.
of that was, some creative flow because it was based on diary entries. So,
Right.
gotta do what you gotta do to make it a good book.
It is really fucking good, too. Mary Kay McBrayer, like, she just wrote it, I think in 2019. But she was a listener of, like, My Favorite Murder and all these true crime podcasts. And she heard Jane's story told a bunch of times, but it was always the shortest bit of information about her life. Everyone's always like, yeah, nobody really knows anything about her. And she's like, why the fuck does nobody know anything about the first female American serial killer? Like, we have to find this information.
Yeah.
So she dug deep. It's
Love it.
so good.
Love that commitment. What's the title of the book, just since we're talking about it?
It is called America's First Serial Killer, Jane Toppan and the Making of a Monster.
All right. Get it, Mary Kay McBrayer. So let's get into the information that we found about who is now believed to be America's first female serial killer. On March 31st, 1854, Irish immigrants Peter and Bridget Kelly welcomed their youngest daughter, Honora, which, by the way, is a really pretty name,
So pretty.
Honora Kelly, into the world in in Boston, Massachusetts.
There you go.
Soon after, though, Bridget Kelly died of tuberculosis, leaving Peter Kelly to care for both Honora and her older sisters, Delia and Nellie, on his own. Peter Kelly was not set to raise these little girls on his own. Whether it came on before or after the passing of his wife is not known, but he had a habit of drinking too much and becoming abusive. He also clearly had a mental health condition. And then when you throw alcohol into the mix, that really doesn't help.
And you throw the 1800s in there and they're like, what is mental health?
Exactly. You're just a crazy person. We should put you in an asylum. Exactly. But no, you're not a woman, so we're going to just let you work this out. Trying his best to be a good father, or maybe trying not to be a father at all, Peter surrendered his youngest girls, Honora, 6, Delia, 8, to an orphanage called the Boston Female Asylum, where he believed they would be cared for better. Unfortunately, the oldest girl, Nellie, was too old to be accepted by the orphanage. And soon after Peter dropped them off, he sewed his own eyes shut, and Nellie was committed to an insane asylum. Oh, my fucking God. Ugh, I can't deal with eye things.
Yeah, that's, like, clearly mental health,
yes,
right?
Absolutely.
He sewed his own eyelids shut.
That's a thing.
How could you see the other one after you sewed the one? And then his daughter
was committed? Like, what?
Yeah, I mean, nobody knows what happened to him. Maybe he was committed, maybe he completed suicide. But
either way, he went off the deep end.
You can't be on your own.
And you can't
and you're
care
too old
for
the
child.
Orphanage.
Yeah. Yeah, you're also too old for the orphanage.
No, I meant her.
Yeah, I know. But he definitely is.
Yeah.
But that's just really sad. And it's possible that there was one more daughter as well, but nothing was known about her. Because, again, it's the 1800s.
Yeah, no one knew anything about these people.
At the Boston Female Asylum, Honora and Delia had pretty average experiences, as far as anyone could tell. Other than being ridiculed and bullied for being Irish, because people are assholes. In the 1800s, the Irish fled to America to escape political hardships back home. Americans at the time were not welcoming and were downright racist towards Irish immigrants. Honora and Delia were not immigrants, though. They were born in America. But they were still Irish, and people sucked just as much as they do now, because history repeats itself, as we say basically every episode lately. Based on a few accounts and some educated guesses, it seemed that Honora was the more aggressive sister. When people were bullying them, Honora stuck up for her older sister Delia. But Honora was also a teacher's pet. She was one of the youngest girls there, and one of the hardest workers. She was obsessed with the praise that she got for working hard. I think me and Sierra can both relate to this.
I am 100% a teacher's pet. I don't know if it's because of the praise, though. I think it's because of, like,
relieving anxiety and just knowing that you did everything you could.
Well, not even that for me. Like, no offense, but as a Libra, I get that for you. I don't like to be known. I want to be, nobody fucking look at me, but also I don't want to be known as someone who's
no one
not
will draw
working
attention
hard.
To me. Yeah.
Right, so I'm scared that if I don't know the answer, then people are going to look at me. So I always know the answer. I am always like, I know everything. I have to know what to say in case I get called on.
It's kind of fucked up the way that teachers, like, spring call on people. Like, come on. Yeah. That's kind of psychologically damaging. I haven't been to school in a very long time. I don't know if they're still doing that. But I hated it when you were just, like, sitting there writing notes.
They definitely still are.
And then they would call on you and you're like, ugh.
As much as that is, like, a shitty, scary, psychological thing, at the same time, that does happen in the real world,
It does.
too.
It happens
so you
at your
kind of have to
jobs.
be prepared. Yeah.
Happened to me today. I'm like, yeah.
Yeah, it happens in your job. It happens on the street when randomly someone's like, hey, can I get $1? And if you don't answer right away, they could be like a terrible person and hurt you, or they could be like trying to like distract you to steal your... Sorry, guys.
Just always be, world out there. Just always be on the... just head on a swivel, be a teacher's pet.
Be ready to either give somebody $1 or tell them to get the fuck away. You choose. Whichever one is fine, but you gotta be ready.
Moral of the story, be a teacher's pet. Be ready always. In the beginning, the home was only for girls who had no mother and no father. But at the time of the girls' stay, the Boston Female Asylum was a home that took in all kinds of girls suffering from shitty situations, as long as the parents signed over their rights to the child and swore to never interfere with the child's new life, which is, like, so
super intense.
super intense. It kind of reminds me of like what the Wayward Boys of the asylum that you were talking about. And again, Patreon plug, but go check that out. Our Bitch and Wine. That's why Sierra's
protectorate
dad's house is fucking haunted. Like, you can't just sign over your children, okay? You are responsible for them, but it was a different time. At the home, the workers helped the girls learn new skills that would allow them to be helpful members of society.
Wait, I'm sorry. I have to just touch on, you said, you can't just sign over your kids, but it was a different time. Also, it's a different time now, and if you don't want to have that kid, you can by all means sign over all the rights to that kid, okay? If they're not going to let you get rid of it while it's in you, then 100% you can sign over all the rights.
Again,
sorry.
History has a way of repeating itself. It's so fucked up.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, forced motherhood is its own form of abuse. Like, if you're you're not going to be a good parent if you're not mentally and physically and just emotionally in it. Like, ugh. And sorry, guys, I know you've heard about this a few episodes in a row. We're mad about it. It's happening. Just know that we're allies and we're all on this boat together. At the home, the workers helped the girls gain new skills that would allow them to be helpful members of society. But they were not taught anything outside of their quote-unquote class. As in, these girls were obviously poor, and they didn't need to know quote-unquote rich people things. Reading and writing were only taught to a certain point. So basically a basic you can get through life point, and that's about it.
Right.
They did not learn to read for fun, only for necessity. Which is really sad, because reading is a beautiful thing. We're big
reading
bookworms.
Reading is so fun.
They also learned new things that would make people want to adopt them. They were taught to cook and to clean, to sew, and to basically keep up their future foster parents' home. When the girls in the home became the age of about 11 to 14, they were put up for sale, essentially, to potential foster parents. The girls' strengths and positive traits were boasted about to the adults that came to the shop for the girls. Sometimes the girls were fostered for a bit and then adopted, but most of the time the adults came and shopped for girls that would just be their housekeeper, which is really fucking sad.
Yeah, no adoption.
They're
usually.
You're just another resource to me.
Mm-hmm.
And 11 to 14 is young. You still need to be young or loved and nurtured, for fuck's sake.
Right.
The catch is, though, when the girl turns 18, the foster parents must give the girl $50 to move out and make her own way in the world, which I know doesn't sound like a lot, but it's the 1800s.
Yeah,
it
was essentially, I think,
the equivalent of
let me
a couple $1,000 today, I think.
No, I think it was like $15,000.
Oh, shit.
But let me double check. Oh, no, 1,500. Sorry.
1,500. Okay. Well, that's pretty bleak, but again, 1,500s.
Yeah.
And it's not like they don't have to kick them out, but they just have to pay them and offer them a chance to be something else.
Right,
and to
right.
do something
they can
else.
stay there and have $50.
That's kind of, right?
Yeah.
But still, they're like working for these people. They're not loved or
They're
cared
working for them for 8 years, like at the very least 7 years.
That's insane.
Like $1,500 for 7 years of work. Shit.
Indentured servitude is not a perfect life, but it was better than being homeless with no parents or being raised by parents who didn't treat them right, or even living in the orphanage with hundreds of other girls. According to Harold Schechter, author of the other book we read, their breakfast consisted of hasty pudding, boiled rice with molasses, or milk porridge thickened with flour.
Yuck.
Their dinners weren't much better than eating the same things week to week, like soup every Monday and Wednesday, or pork and beans every Tuesday, and boiled meat every Thursday. So basically they were like Sheldon Cooper from The Big Bang Theory, but they didn't get fun food.
Not only is it not fun food, it doesn't even sound healthy.
It's not.
I would much rather be an indentured servant.
Yeah, me too. I would rather get like some form of vegetables and less fucking carbs and flour.
I'll clean your toilet. Please feed me. I'm hungry.
Yeah. God damn it. When the keepers at the home stopped praising Honora because they had gotten used to her hard work, she started trying to get attention. in other ways, like telling stories about her family that were completely untrue, but would make a great novel. Eventually, other girls at the home thought she was a little bit annoying and an attention hog, and she did not make any friends.
Ah.
So, in November of 1862, a very wealthy woman named Anne Toppan came into the Boston Female Asylum to pick out a child. She wasn't looking to adopt a family member, though. She wanted someone to tend to her home.
The usual.
She was an older widow and wanted someone to do the housework while she spent time with the daughter she already had. Anne's daughter was named Elizabeth. She was in her 30s, unmarried, and Anne wanted her daughter to have a chance at marriage and a good life. So the girl she planned to take in could not be of a childbearing age, or else a man might want her more than Elizabeth and give
Because it's the 1800s.
them 3 chickens and their best goat.
Yeah.
She did not want any attention to be taken from her daughter.
That's so gross.
It is really gross.
Like, I'm going to go find a 10-year-old, but she can't be pretty because my 30-year-old might get jealous.
Sorry, your
God,
30-year-old
what are
is
the
an old
1800s?
spinster. Like, Jesus. Sorry, that was mean, but you know what I mean.
What a time.
Yeah, it's so true, though. If you weren't married by, 16? You were, yeah.
Well,
Nora was only 8, so she wasn't supposed to be able to leave the asylum yet. But Anne wanted the youngest girl that she could get. And the other girls didn't really like her anyway, which says some things, I'm sure. It was a pleasant bonus to Anne that Nora was extremely hardworking already, even at such a young age. The only downfall was that she was Irish. Anne did not want people to know that she gave a home and a job to an Irish girl. She agreed to foster the girl, but first changed her name to be Jane Toppan, an English name.
Jane.
She said that Jane may call her auntie. Nora is way prettier, but whatever.
I know. Plain Jane. She was a Nora.
Nora's a beautiful
name.
name. But living at the Toppan house was much different than anything Jane had experienced before Jane/Nora. For a while, she was the topic of discussion when new people came over to the Toppan home, and she loved that. She would also...
Like that attention.
Yeah, right? She also loved the attention that Anne's daughter Elizabeth gave to her. Anne may not have considered Jane a daughter, but Elizabeth did consider her a sister, because Jane was the closest thing to it, and she was an only child. A lot of sources also said that Elizabeth and Jane went to school together, but we're not sure that's even possible, again, because Elizabeth was at least 20 years older than Jane. Elizabeth was considered to be extremely immature for her age, never knowing how to care for herself because she was spoiled by her wealthy parents. But I don't know if that means she waited until 25 to go to high school.
Yeah, that's so weird.
She's a female, so that opportunity might not have been allowed, but maybe allowed because she was rich.
Why is Jane going when she's the poor servant?
Yeah, that's true
at
too.
8, and Elizabeth isn't going until 25. I don't know. Only a couple sources said it. It might just be fucking wrong.
It's weird either way.
Yeah.
Take it with a grain of salt, guys.
Yeah.
Eventually, though, the newness of it all wore off. Jane saw Elizabeth have friends and birthday parties, while she herself received no love or attention from the adults. Jane tried to get positive attention, but her quote-unquote auntie was annoyed by it and became just another person who was racist and abusive towards Jane. And Jane began to resent her and lean into the negative attention instead, because that's what kids do. They will take it how they can get it.
I know, right? It's so upsetting. Like, I know that Jane Toppan is a terrible human. We said that in, the very first paragraph.
We can feel bad for the child version of
this
her.
is like a nurture versus nature thing, and I think naturally she would have been fine if people would just fucking love
Treat
her.
like a human.
Love her.
Crazy to me to think of Irish being
I know.
like people being racist against Irish people. Not that it's okay to be racist against anybody, but Irish people are still white. So it's like, it's crazy to me that that was even a thing too.
Yeah, I saw
Treat
this
everyone
whole
equally,
thing.
but still.
I saw this whole thing about it was kind of like a hot button debate kind of thing where there are still signs hanging up in a lot of places that say Irish need not apply. And it's not because they're saying we don't hire Irish people here. It's their way of saying we are Irish now. And even though those signs were there, we fucking worked our way up and we are here. So all of you people who are stressed out now and being ridiculed and people who are racist towards you, don't stop fighting because you'll get there. And some people are like, no, you can't do that. And other people are like, yes, it's like a positive enforcement.
It is.
Like,
it's like
it's okay. We're going to get there.
Okay.
Yeah.
I like that. I
Yeah.
would have totally misconstrued that as well. So glad you explained that. That's cute. I like it.
Yeah.
No one really knew the signs to look for at the time, but looking back, there's a good chance that Jane purposely did the wrong things to piss people off or to hurt them. Sometimes, quote unquote, Auntie, had her rich Karen friends over, and they would turn their noses up at Jane's behavior. And sometimes Jane would cook or make drinks for them with toxic plants and ingredients, but then apologize profusely when everyone started to get sick. And she was saying, like, I didn't know it was toxic.
It's not funny because she's a serial killer, but it's funny because she's a kid.
And
like,
I would have poisoned the Karen's
right?
tea too.
like I can picture some fucking bitch being like, you need to go make me a dairy-free coffee, and me putting a whole bunch of dairy in it, like, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't know.
See, this is why Sierra and I would have been burned for being a witch at the stake, okay? Because we can't deal with this bullshit. Yeah, and we're petty. You can't. Sorry, you're gonna treat me like this? It's like the ladies that used to
Petty
do this
Jane.
to me at the restaurant to get my attention. I'm like, fuck you. Like, I'm gonna make you wait longer because that's not how you talk to a human. Anyways, but for the most part, when her auntie wasn't being a racist bitch towards her, Jane lived pretty well. Again, Elizabeth loved Jane. She really wanted to have a sister and always referred to Jane as her little sister, even when her mother yelled at her for it.
Kids will be kids. Even 30-year-old kids.
Yeah, right? No, that's crazy to me. I keep forgetting that she's 30.
Why is she 30?
Like, it seems like you're like 16.
Yeah.
Jane was also very fond of Elizabeth's boyfriend turned husband, Ormel Brigham, which, like, what a name. It is the most Ormel and most men in general paid a lot of attention to Jane. And that's really all she ever really wanted, was for someone to pay attention to her. So again, more negative reinforcement.
Again, just love her.
Right? Don't be a fucking creep. When Jane turned 18, Auntie gave her $50 and told her that she was free to go whenever she wanted. But she could also just accept the $50 and continue doing what she was doing as if nothing had changed. Working her daily duties, having a place to sleep each night. Jane wasn't fond of Auntie, but she wouldn't live forever, and she really liked Elizabeth and Ormel, so she chose to stay.
Understandable. Where else are you gonna go?
Yeah, right?
When your whole life
what are you
is
gonna do with
being
your
someone's servant?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And it's like a little bit of Stockholm syndrome, I imagine, at that point, too. Like, that's all you know.
Yeah, I mean, she's been there since she was 8. That's literally her family.
Yeah. I can't imagine leaving you there.
Even if it's a shitty family.
Yeah, even if your family is racist
Cinderella
and
syndrome.
fucking rude. Total Cinderella vibes. That's absolutely what I was getting. Jane also began looking for her own relationship at this time. She was often described as a portly woman, someone who was bigger than most men thought was attractive at the time, which fuck you, men. Mm-hmm. But there was at least one man who was very interested in her. Rumor has it that he was Irish and could tell that she was as well, even though no one else could. She told him things about her that she wasn't able to tell anyone in fear of racism. like her real name, for example.
Oh.
He enjoyed hearing her talk about normal things, not just the fake stories she liked to tell. And he reminded Jane of her father.
Which is a little creepy because he
But
sewed
we
his
all
eyelids
marry
shut.
people that were
But
like,
also, yeah, daddy
like their
issues.
parents. Yeah,
It's
absolutely.
a natural instinct.
There are creepy levels of it and there are normal levels of it.
Yeah.
Like, my dad has a really good sense of humor. I like that in men. My husband has a very good sense of humor. You know,
Yeah.
normal things. But then there's this. Apparently, they were going to get married. He had some things to take care of first, though. But he said that he was in love with Jane. And when those things were done, he'd come back around and court her like a gentleman. But he never came back around.
Oh, no. Poor Jane.
I know!
Poor Honora.
Poor Nora. One of the things he had to do first was to get his own place. He found a rental and then fell in love with the property owner's daughter. That's who he married.
you.
So fuck you, sir. The closest thing Jane got to a romance after this man was in the romance novels that she obsessed over.
Poor
It's
thing.
like literally like a Cinderella story. Like, just, ugh.
At least
my
she's
heart.
reading again, right?
Yeah, that's true.
It is like if a Cinderella story was a horror, though. Because
Absolutely. And we're talking
we know
like
where
the
this
Cinderella
goes.
story with like Hilary Duff, right?
Chad Michael Murray.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, absolutely. Okay. Great movie. If you guys haven't seen it, if we're not talking to the elder millennials around here, go look at it. So, to make things worse, shortly after this incident, Auntie died.
Oh, fuck.
Elizabeth was too sad to plan the funeral, so Jane did it all. And she handled it perfectly. People complimented her floral arrangements and her preparation and her strength. Obviously, Jane loved the attention, but after all that hard work Jane had put into keeping Auntie's house and all of the hard work that she had put into creating a wonderful atmosphere after her death, Jane was shocked to see that she was not even mentioned in Auntie's will.
Oh, no. That's her mother, basically.
Basically, yeah, that's heartbreaking. I mean, it's like, you don't even have to be like a gold digger or looking for anything. It's like you literally are the only person I've known, and I'm not even mentioned. Like,
Yeah.
give me a fucking necklace. Like, give me a plot of your land. Like, Jesus. Elizabeth received everything that Auntie owned. So Jane stayed in the house with Elizabeth for a while. Elizabeth married Ormel, which is fucking weird, and he moved in as well. It was nice to have him living there, but after a while it got weird having to be a servant, but also someone who acted like your sister and your friend. Like Elizabeth was the Blair Waldorf, and Jane was the Jenny Humphrey, trying to fit in. Love it. Jane got tired of trying to fit in, and she also got tired of seeing Ormel, someone who clearly liked her enough to show her attention and listen to her stories, go to bed with her boring, not really good at anything, sister-ish Elizabeth.
Oh, man.
I get
What
it, girl.
a weird
situation.
Yeah.
In 1885, at the age of 30, Jane grabbed her $50 and all of the money she could scrounge up from odd jobs and set out to start nursing school. She wanted to make something of herself.
Okay.
Yeah, right? Like, get it. Her extremely caring and probably clueless sister-ish Elizabeth told her that she could come back home anytime. She would always have a room at that house, which is really nice.
That is so nice, but seriously, Elizabeth is like the most, like, I picture
She's
her
an
as being
enigma.
such a ditzy, like, clueless
She
girl.
literally is the ugly stepsister, but probably not ugly, you know?
She has the boyfriend, but she doesn't even realize that her baby sister-ish is hitting on her husband. Like,
Yeah.
what is happening? You can come here and stay with us
Yeah,
anytime, even though you're
no.
in love with my husband.
It's weird. Yeah, cut the cord at some point. Ugh.
It's strange.
Becoming a nurse in the 1800s, however, was much different than becoming a nurse now. Jane had to go through schooling and training, but mental health really wasn't a concept yet, as we discussed with her dad.
With sewing the eyelids shut.
Yeah, that's still not okay. And it really seemed like the trainers were trying to break the people that wanted to be a nurse.
Oh, no.
Oh my God, it's kind of like what they do to flight attendants now.
Yes.
Oh God.
Oof. Scary.
It's very scary. They needed to see how much you could handle before allowing you to be in control of somebody's life.
I get it.
Again,
But
makes sense, but also, like, you need to be of sound mental health.
I need to be in control of my own life first.
Yeah, exactly. You need to be happy, healthy, and in control. God.
Yeah.
In school, quote unquote, the nurses' trainees had to stay on site for their position. They slept in little tiny, unheated, crowded offices that were in the hospital, and they lived in their ward where they worked.
Oh.
That sounds horrible.
Sounds like boot camp.
Yeah, it really does. They worked 14-hour shifts with 2 meal breaks. Holy fuck. I can't go 7 hours without eating. God. I don't know what that says about me, but Jesus. 7 days a week, and they were not allowed to leave when the day was over, so they don't even get a break from this place. They just went to their room, they slept, and they prepared for the next day. That sounds like hell.
Yeah.
They got 2 weeks off a year and had to live this way for at least 2 years.
It seriously is like boot camp. That's insane.
For the first month, sometimes longer, if the head nurses didn't like you, they had to do the dirty work in the hospital. Clean the floors, give the baths, clean the waste buckets, and administer enemas. Ugh to all of that.
The grunt work.
Yeah, exactly. After being watched closely by a real nurse, the trainees would start to get their own patients that they were responsible for, and then they would report back to the head nurse about it. Jane started nursing training at Cambridge Hospital, and right away she was really good at it, especially after having been an indentured servant her whole life. She was striving for approval, always.
Yeah.
She was a huge teacher's pet, like we said.
Of course.
And she learned more than she needed to know, read all of the new information all of the time, and her supervisors and head nurses loved that she was so dedicated. They praised her for it, so she kept trying harder and harder.
It's probably weirder for, like, someone who, you know, like Elizabeth, for instance, who, like, went to school and had her mom doting on them to, like, then try and go and be a nurse. But Jane was already an indentured servant.
Yeah, she
had to clean the
from
fucking nasty
yeah,
shit. She had to be a servant. Like,
she had to get approval and set herself aside from people to get adopted.
It's the perfect making for a nurse.
Yeah. Actually, it really is.
Yeah.
She also got praise and recognitions from the patients. She was so kind and hospitable to them, and they would tell her nice things, like that she was literally a lifesaver and just the Swedish nurse. Yeah, exactly. And just the sweetest nurse that they had ever had. They loved her. Her coworkers, seeing her try hard to get praise, were annoyed at it.
Ugh.
Common denominator.
It's the orphanage all over again.
Yeah, you're always annoyed at the teacher's pet. They saw Jane as a boastful, braggy, a know-it-all, and someone who was trying way too hard to work hard. She earned the nickname Jolly Jane from her coworkers, which sounds like she was a happy person all the time, but they meant it as an insult.
Aww.
Yes, she was happy all of the time with patients, but coworkers could not stand that she was happy. Who could be happy doing the things like cleaning poop out of buckets? They didn't appreciate her being so good, and it made them look bad. So just fucking try harder,
be
assholes.
Better.
Yeah. Sucks to suck.
I get it. I get it-ish.
I get it-ish.
I don't because
either.
I'm always Jane.
We're
I'm always
Jane.
the Jane.
Yeah, no, we don't get it.
But I understand, I guess, when other people are, like, annoyed.
The other nurse trainees used the nickname so often that the head nurses and the patients even started calling Jane Jolly as well. They didn't mean it as an insult, and they did not catch on to the insulting tone of it, But
I just thought she was happy.
Yeah, it just left Jane trying to stay strong and be nice and understanding while filling with anger and hate inside.
Yeah, can you imagine if, like, someone called you, like, oh, you're such a good person, but they mean it super sarcastic, and then everyone's like, hey, good person, and you're like,
it's like salt in the wound.
Thank you, but also these people are fucking dicks.
Dicks, yeah, stop calling me that. I don't like it, but again, poor girl. Jane quickly went back to her old ways of negative attention. If the girls she worked with didn't want to be her friend and notice how great of a nurse she was, then she would get their attention another way. She started making up stories about the other girls to get them in trouble. She even got some of them kicked out of school for saying that they left the premises when they were supposed to be working.
Pathological liar.
Meanwhile, she was still getting the positive attention she wanted from her patients. She loved them so much, and they loved her too. But when they were better and they had to leave the hospital, she never got to see them again. And as selfish as it was, she didn't want them to get better because she didn't want them to leave.
Oh no.
At first, she would just lie on her patients' charts. She would write in that they had a fever, had been throwing up, anything that would earn them to stay longer at the hospital, so that she could be with them longer.
That is not good.
No, that's not ethical at all. But she would go to bed, wake up, and see that they had been discharged. The other nurses had double-checked their symptoms and had found that they were actually fine and let them go home. This was when Jane moved on to some more drastic measures.
Oh no.
She had to actually make her patients sick so that they had to stay in the hospital.
No, Jane.
And she quickly learned that making them sicker and weaker made them even more grateful to her when she nursed them back to health. More negative reinforcement, which just made her want to bring them closer and closer to death.
Oh,
and
no.
You cannot play that game.
No. I was with you for a long time until now.
This is where we break off. This is where we do not claim Jane. Still, she was a great nurse, according to all of her patients and her supervisors. And after some training in 1888, she was recommended to attend the prestigious Massachusetts General Hospital for furthering her training. But she was furthering her experimentation as well.
Oh, that doesn't sound good.
No. Jane would treat her patients with morphine and atropine, or a combination of the two, a little at a time to see what would happen. She would up the doses just a little bit each time, bringing them extremely close to overdosing, and then immediately back to healthy.
No.
Over and over again. Many people died under Jane's care, but many people died under every nurse's care. It was the 1800s.
Yeah?
If you're going to go to the hospital, then you were obviously very sick, and if you were at the hospital, you were surrounded by other sick people. It was very easily that you could die from another illness from a new one that you picked up. So, it was not a shock that any nurses or doctors, when someone came in sick, did not get better. They weren't surprised by it. There was no way to tell if their cause of death was due to Jane's experiments, the sickness that they came in with, or something that they had picked up in the dirty hospital with a weak immune system.
Aww.
No one ever really knew she was doing anything wrong. Actually, they assumed that she was doing everything right. At one point, when the head nurse took leave, she appointed Jane as the temporary head nurse in charge. That's how good she was.
Oh my god.
See, I want to say get it, Jane, but I know that this is not what should be happening.
Yeah.
The only person who survived long enough and remembered enough about Jane to speak on the way that she treated patients at the hospital was Amelia Finney. She was 36 when she went into the Massachusetts General Hospital with a uterine ulcer. She was also there for a routine visit, burning the ulcer down, like she usually did. It was a painful procedure, and what the fuck is burning an ulcer down? What are the 1800s? So sorry. Just like registered what I just said, and I was like, fuck
you know how
that.
when you have like a wart and you like
and
freeze
you
it
burn
off?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like that, except with an ulcer.
Yeah, but an ulcer is a hole in your stomach. I'm not really sure how burning it is going to make it fuse back
That's
together.
true. Maybe they... Well, definitely it would make
guess
it fuse
it
back
would.
together. Like, cauter it.
Oh my god, they're cauterizing
They did it with silver.
ulcer.
I don't know if it's considered cauterizing, but I know that they used silver, hot silver.
Fuck that noise, guys. Just take vitamin E oil now and stop eating spicy shit.
I love spicy shit.
I do too, but have you ever had a stomach ulcer?
No.
You have to totally change your diet. It sucks.
Fuck that.
That's what happened when I started taking apple cider vinegar.
Let me die
first thing
happy.
in the morning. Yeah. Like before anything else was in my stomach, and I took apple cider vinegar, I gave myself an ulcer. So recommendation to our health nut fans out there to just fucking eat something before you take your apple cider vinegar.
Yeah.
Or
Also,
you're going to
be
go back
careful.
to the 1800s and get your ulcer cauterized.
With silver.
Yeah, Jesus Christ.
Be careful taking apple cider vinegar if you have COVID too, because it is hard to tell.
Oh yeah, that's how Sierra found out
I
that
did
she
not
did not have
taste
taste
it.
buds anymore. It was a painful procedure, but she knew to ask for the doctor to help her feel better while she waited to go home for the procedure. Jane was her nurse while she was there, and when Amelia asked for her doctor, Jane told her that there was no need. She had exactly what she needed to make her feel better.
Oh no.
Jane gave her medication a drink. Amelia fell numb and then unconscious. Then Amelia had the weirdest dream. As she lay there unconscious, she felt Nurse Jane pull back the blankets and slip onto her bed. Jane pushed up against Amelia, very close, kissing her and stroking her hair, whispering in her ear that everything was going to be okay. From her heavy breathing, Amelia could tell that Jane was aroused, even while peeling back her eyelids and checking her pupils for dilation. Then Jane pressed more medication to Amelia's lips, asking her in the sweetest words to drink a little bit more. Amelia fought by turning her head back and forth until eventually Jane left her room in a hurry. The next morning, Amelia woke up embarrassed that her sleeping brain could ever make up such a thought. But years later, Amelia would realize that it wasn't a dream at all, and that she had actually survived America's first female serial killer.
Jane gross!
Yeah,
what are you doing?
Real gross. And that is where we are going to leave it for part 1. Yay! What the fuck?
Jane!
We definitely don't claim Jane anymore.
No!
We for sure don't claim her. But yeah, guys.
God damn it, Jane.
That is insane. We hope that you haven't heard of this one before. If you have, let us know. Jane. If you haven't, also let us know. And stay tuned for part 2 when Sierra picks us back up next week.
Yeah.
Jesus.
Oh, man.
Our morbid Cinderella over here.
Seriously.
Ugh. I feel icky now.
Yuck.
That took a turn all of a sudden.
I know. It took a turn.
It took a dark, dark turn. But hopefully, whatever day it is today is less dark.
Hopefully.
Alicia asked Sierra, hopefully.
Today is July 26th. And on this day throughout the years, a lot of wars and battles and death happened.
So she's not ending us on a happy note.
So protect yourself from those negative energies. But in other news, on July 26th in 1903, Horatio Jackson, Sewell Crocker, and a bulldog named Bud completed the first ever automobile trip across the United States.
Oh, fuck yeah. Bud is my hero.
Bud! They drove from San Francisco, California to New York, which took them 63 days, 12 hours, and 30 minutes in a 2-cylinder Winton.
The things they must have seen.
Which only had 22 horsepower.
Oh my god!
Today, the average horsepower
That's why it took
about...
them 63 days.
Exactly. Today, the average horsepower... Today, the average horsepower is about 200, And this same drive with our highways and speed limits would only take 43 hours. Or you can just take a 6-hour flight.
Oh my God, 43 hours as opposed
Yeah.
to 60. That's insane.
63 days. Oh, poor
2
Bud.
months of your life. Yeah, right?
Yeah.
Bud was really the hero of the story here. So
He was like, please just let me take a walk.
yeah, I
don't
want
to be this
walk.
fat
I don't want to be in
anymore.
this car. I'm thirsty. I don't like
Poor
this. You
bulldog.
both smell.
Oh.
I imagine that's how his internal thoughts were, but
Yeah.
yeah, have you ever been trapped inside a car with somebody for 12 hours? They don't smell great.
Well,
Imagine having a dog's sense of smell.
The car that they had was actually it was like, they didn't have a
Roofless.
top.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. So you got some airflow in there.
Yeah,
That's
you get
good.
some airflow.
That's good.
But still,
Gotta
it's a long time.
Gotta waft out that swass.
Yeah.
But that's cool. Yay for modern technology in that sense.
Woohoo.
But yeah, we love you guys lots. We will see you next week for Serial Killer Round 2. If you're craving some
the
extra
good
twisted
stuff.
content, go and check out our Listener Stories Volume 5 on this feed for free. Go and check out our Patreon. We release 6 bonus episodes every month. Yeah, go leave those 5-star ratings and reviews so that you get entered to win a free month of Patreon, and so that you see me and Sierra do embarrassing shit when I go and visit her in October. And in the meantime, keep it twisted. Thank you for listening to Twisted and Uncorked Podcast. Remember to leave a 5-star rating and review wherever you are listening now. It really is the best way to spread the word. You can also check out all of our sources and materials, as well as photos for the episode, on our website at twistedanduncorked.com. And you can follow us on social media at Twisted and Uncorked or Twisted_pod on Twitter. Thank you so much for all of your love and support, and we will see you next Tuesday for a brand new episode. Cheers!